for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. How's your day going?
Going well.
Good, man. Good. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited. John told me, he gave me an audio message for a little bit about your story, your role in the Bigler family, and so I'm excited to hear just about it and what you got going on and what's impacted your life and who's important to you and all these different things. And so, man, have at it, man. Where do you want to start? I probably should start where all you guys started back in Ojai, California, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I'm the second to youngest. He probably told you that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is older than me except for Kevin. Um, I don't know, man. Where do you want to start? There's a lot of history there. If you want to talk mostly history or what I'm doing now.
I want to hear about. I want to hear about what it was like to grow up in Ojai, California. It seems like California is still such a key part to so many guys' story. And John told me you were the football player in the family. Something about like played
Yeah,
football.
there were three of us. I was a football player. Yeah.
Okay, offense, defense, and then something about punting at Southern
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah. So I didn't start playing football until we were older, right? That was kind of the big family scandal. My mom wouldn't let anyone play football until Scott, right? He was the very first football player. And then I started in eighth grade, and Kevin started in sixth grade. So I didn't get my first experience with football until middle school. Um, yeah, I was, size wise, I'm kind of like in the middle of the Bigler family, right? You have this small guy, Scott, and then you have the large ones like Kevin and John. I'm about like 5'10". Right now I'm about 195 pounds. Um, that's about what I was in high school. So I played a lot of positions. I played like a strong safety. I was the starting punter both years. I also played running back, mostly like a fullback running back. Our high school ran the ball a lot. So, I mean, there were like four guys on my high school team my senior year that ran the ball over 75 carries that season. So, yeah, it was a lot of running the ball, a lot of blocking. Yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I think about where I live now in Utah and how high school sports have become like insane, where kids start playing and they start like getting competitive in sports at like 8, 9 years old. Back then, it was just kind of like you show up with your buddies. You go through Hell Week during the summer, and you have a hard time during the summer. But most of the time, it was, really fun experience of playing against the same kids every year in, year out, because you played against the same high schools that you played against in junior high, and you like know all the players on the other team from Santa Paula and Fillmore. That was for me. That was like one of my favorite experiences of growing up in Ojai, just the really small town community feel. I'd known all the guys since elementary school. We'd known all of the guys on the other team since elementary school, and yeah, it was fun. I played all over the field. Um, I guess one good story to tell. He kind of hinted that I was the starting punter, and that is like one of my favorite stories from high school because so I wasn't actually good at football until probably my junior year. I actually never started in high school until my junior year. Freshman and sophomore years, I was kind of always a backup. I just kind of small and scrawny. I didn't start really putting on weight until my junior year. So I went from like 155 pounds sophomore to like 185 as a junior. So I put on a ton of muscle and I got a lot stronger. But I was the starting strong safety in our very first game of the year. And back then we would play Moore Park our first game every year. So if you know that area, it's just a school we played every year. Knew all the kids at Moore Park. It was like the same kids every year. And our starting punter was this kid named Dean, Scott will laugh at because he was in between Scott and I. He was a senior when I was a junior. And he played his freshman and sophomore year at Malibu High School. Malibu was terrible. And then he came as a junior to play for Nordoff, which was our high school. And he kind of got picked on a lot because he was this tall, scrawny kid. And he was our starting punter when I was a junior, and he was a senior. And our Coach Farrar, would always give him a hard time. He would always yell at him, scream at him. And versus Moore Park, the very first time we had to punt, he shanked the punt really bad, and it only went like 20 yards or something terrible. And I remember just Coach Farrar just screaming at him, "You stupid piece of crap! You Malibu pieces of crap can never play football." He's like, "Get off my field!" and just benches him. And then I'm standing there, ready to go in on defense, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Bigler." He's like, "You're a punter, aren't you?" And I was like, "Coach, no, never punted the ball before." I was like, my sophomore year, I was the place kicker, but I only toe punch. Like, I'm terrible at it. And I was like, "You're thinking of my older brother, Scott." And he's like, "Oh, that's right." He's like, "Yeah, but you're the same family. You must be a good punter." He's like, "Next time we have to punt the ball, you're taking the snap and you're punting." So the next time the offense had to punt, I can't remember what it was. I hit a pretty good punt, 40, 45 yards. And the rest of my junior and senior year, I was the starting punter as well as starting strong safety as well as starting running back. So,
dude,
yeah, it was just kind of a funny story where the first time I ever punted a football in a football game was my varsity junior year, first game I ever started. It was the first game I'd ever started a football game. And it was because the guy shanked a punt and because Scott was the punter the year before me that Coach Farrar got us confused.
Dude.
He didn't know the difference between. I mean, I think he knew the difference between Scott and I, but he couldn't remember which one was a good punter.
Oh, dude, that's an awesome story, man.
Yeah.
Like, and that, like, you punted in college, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like you.
So similar experience. So in college, I actually got a scholarship my freshman year to play strong safety. And a lot of similar stories. So in college, I actually went and played for a small school that was only the second year of their program, and I was part of their first class of some scholarship players. They couldn't sign a full. They just didn't have the resources. It was a small school in the East Coast. They could sign some scholarship players, and I was part of a batch of like 12 scholarship players. So I was signed as a strong safety, and I started the season at strong safety. And the punter that they had was a walk-on, and it was almost a very similar experience. As like, it wasn't mid-game, but during the first game we played, the punter was terrible, and he averaged like 25 yards a punt. So in practice on Monday, the coach said, "Any of you guys punt in high school?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." "What was your average?" And I was like, "Yeah, 45 to 50 yards a punt." He was like, "You're up." And actually, of all my football experience that season, I had a killer punting season. Like, I had the school record for a long time for longest punt. It was like 73 yards.
Dude.
Yeah, it was in one game. I hit a really good punt, and it started to go over the return man's head, and he reached up to try and field it behind him, and it hit his hands and bounced like another 25 yards. So, like, it wasn't an in-the-air 73-yard punt, but it was legit, like, from our own 16-yard line to their, like, 2-yard line. And it's because the guy tried to field it over his head. So in college, similar experience with the defensive side of the ball, too, as I was recruited as a strong safety. Midway through the season, I remember the defensive coach came up to me, and he's like, "Bidler," he's like, "Dude, you're making every single tackle on every single play." He's like, "Why don't we just move you closer to the line of scrimmage instead of putting you 7 yards back as a strong safety?" I was like, "Sure." He's like, "You're going to start playing outside linebacker." So mid-season, I moved to outside linebacker, and he said, "Every meal, I want you eating at least 3 servings." He's like, "Every meal, I want you just eating as much as you can eat," because I was 195 when I went to play strong safety in college. By the end of that season, I was playing outside linebacker at 225, and
oh my gosh, dude.
Still blame that season for a lot of my bad eating habits. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, first time I'd ever played outside linebacker too. Turns out it's much easier than safety because you're right near the ball and you just go charge, make a tackle. You just throw your head in there and dive at someone's legs.
Dude, that's crazy, man. It's interesting. You kind of fell into like the punting position, not seeking it out, but just the
Never.
in front of you were no good.
Dude, nobody wants to be a punter. Punter
No.
never gets any girls, man. It's like a job that needs to be done that nobody likes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd never exclusively been a punter. It was always like I had another position, and just the team didn't have a good punter, so got thrown into it.
And so you were there in Virginia? Is that what the school was? For how long?
Yeah,
how long
I
you
just
there?
played the one season in 2004.
Okay. And was it like a 2-year school or a 4-year school, or did you hang around?
It was a 4 year school. It's like a small university. Only like when I went, like 450 students. Um, Mainly like a liberal arts college. So didn't have a great business program. Hence why I didn't go back. I went on my mission after that freshman year and after that season. Then I didn't go back. I transferred to BYU to go to business school. So and it, and it turns out I wasn't big enough. I would have played at BYU. I always say this. I would have played at BYU if had I just been bigger, faster, stronger, better, more talented,
Yeah.
and more intelligent. So, if not for all of those things, I would have been a perfect BYU player.
That's awesome, dude. I was a pretty good basketball player in high school, and I went to I was on the fence if I was going to serve a mission or not, and I went and tried out. They had like a walk-on spot at Dixie State or Utah Tech or whatever it's called now, down in St. George.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went down there and I tried out. You know, they had a walk-on spot, and there's a bunch of kids that were invited in to see if we get the walk-on spot, and like I really got exposed. Like I wasn't tall enough to play small forward, which was what I played in high school. I wasn't fast enough to play point guard. I wasn't a good enough shooter to play shooting guard, and I wasn't strong enough to play center. And so I called my mom on the way home, and it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go on a mission, because if I was a little bit smarter, taller, stronger, faster,
Yep.
better shooter, I would have been a great addition to Dixie State, Rebel,
Yeah.
whatever their college is called. But it didn't work out that way. But you end up in Chile, right? You end up in South America with John.
Yeah. John was Argentina. I was Chile.
Okay.
Full South America, like bottom of the country.
How was it, man? How was the mission?
South,
Okay.
which means it was the area about 5 hours drive south of Concepcion, which Concepcion is like a 5 hour flight south of Santiago, which a lot of people forget that Chile is like one of the world's like longest. It is the world's longest north-south country. So it is like has one of the most diverse in terms of one country, like biodiverse countries in the entire planet. Just because you go from the driest up in Antofagasta, you go from the driest desert in the entire world, which it hasn't like rained in 40 years, which I didn't serve there,
Yeah.
down to where I served, which is one of the most like heavily rained on like forested areas in the entire world as well, besides a rainforest. Like, so I served in the south. Like kind of the middle of my mission was a city called Temuco, which is actually an area of that country that was never conquered by Europeans. So a lot of native Mapuche, which is like the native Chileans, is what I served amongst, and very, very poor is the thing I'll say. Two common misconceptions is number one, automatically because I served in South America, it was fun. And number two is that the food was good. My mission was like extremely hard, extremely outdoors in the rain all the time, and the food was horrible. So like,
Dude.
imagine never feeling like you ever had a good meal and then walking 15 to 20 miles a day in either really hot weather or driving pouring rain 6 months a year.
What about it made it, like, specifically, if you can, like, add specifics of like what made it so hard? I know you mentioned the weather and the food, but
I would say physically demanding, the weather and the
Demanding.
food. Like so the areas I served in, extremely poor. So that's the first thing coming from the United States. I actually have this belief now that I think, it's kind of a fun belief, but in order to be able to vote in our country, you should have to spend 2 years in a third world country. And it doesn't matter how you vote after that, but at least you should understand how good you have it here before you're able to vote.
No doubt.
Because it would totally change the way you see the world living in a place like I did in Chile. So like a lot of the places I lived had, at least I was lucky enough to at least have wood floors, but no foundations, no basements. So going to bed every night, you can hear the rats scratching right underneath you. Having to keep your food up and safe and guard because the mice will get into it and then you'll get hantavirus, right? Showering with, like, a lot of my brothers who served in Latin America. Have you seen those devices that it's like, the best way to describe it is like, those tin pots that electric heat up water?
Yep.
Imagine that, but it's dumping the water on your head for a shower. So if at any given time you bump that thing, you could die.
Yeah.
because it's like a cord is right above your head, like feeding in a bunch of voltage into heating the water. So like water heaters are not a thing. Living amongst the mice and rats, like groups of feral dogs chasing you around the streets, like fleas everywhere. A lot of the people you taught didn't have floors at all, right? It's dirt floors. So I mean that's what I served in, and so physically extremely demanding. I also served during the time with the church where you're expected to be out 12 hours a day, actively proselyting on your feet. Yeah, and you had a minimum amount of people you had to talk to. I believe my mission, it was a minimum of 20 new interactions per day. So like you had to track every single day how many new people you met, how many people you talked to, how many lessons you gave. All of those were minimum requirements. You had to do all of that. So it was just extremely like physically and mentally demanding. Like to this day, I'll have like PTSD dreams where the prophet calls me personally and says, "Hey, will you go back to Chile?" And I'm like, wake up in a sweat where I'm like, "Oh man, I really don't want to," but the prophet's asking me.
Yeah.
So just very physically demanding. I'm extremely grateful for the experience. Like I have a bunch of lifelong friends. A bunch of lifelong companions that I'll be friends with forever, a bunch of people that I kind of track still, for my mission, and, had some amazing experiences that, I mean, we could spend the entire, time talking about some of the people and what they were going through and their faith. But, I don't think that's the whole goal, right, is just to talk about them. So
I'm guessing your mission didn't like ruin your faith because you ended up going to BYU. So I'm guessing somewhere along the way, like you maintained the faith and learned a lot from it and ended up at BYU.
I think if any, of course, like most people who go for the right reasons, I think it strengthened it for sure. There's no doubt about that. Like zero regrets about going. It was just very hard.
Yeah. Jeez. So you did your mission and you end up at BYU. You don't play football, but you end up at business school at BYU.
So going to BYU actually ties back to my mission. My mission president was one of the most Christ-like people that I've ever met. He's President Ceballos, which is spelled Zeballos, Ceballos.
Okay.
So he's Chilean. He's from Antofagasta. He actually, for a long time, served in the First Quorum of the 70. And he's like given talks in general conference and stuff. One of the most Christ-like people I've ever met. Just a wonderful, amazing man.
How do you pronounce his name?
Zeballos.
How do you spell it?
Zeballos. John would pronounce it Zeballos.
John's crazy, dude. Okay, Jorge?
Yep. Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna listen to a talk from him while I make lunch after doing this podcast. Just
you should. I mean, just one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I just like my favorite experiences from my mission, along with like from my personal life, are those times where I got to sit with him one on one, and just him just imparting Christ-like wisdom and Christ-like love on me. Because one of those times, he just sat me down and he said, "Look, what's your plans after your mission?" And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, "You can't have an I don't know approach to life." And I was like, "I may go back to SVU, and I may play football again. I may go to junior college." He's like, "Nope." He's like, "You're not going and you're not playing football anymore." He was like, "You're not going to waste time in stuff like junior college." He's like, "You're going to apply to BYU and you're going to go to their business school. You have too good of a mind for it." He's like, and I was like, "Well, I'm kind of concerned. I had good grades in high school, but BYU just requires exceptional grades." He's like, "Just apply, I'll write a letter of recommendation, just apply in summer school, you'll get in." So it was kind of at his behest that I applied to summer school, I believe it was June 2008, got into their summer school program. And if you get into their summer school, they let you stay in during the fall semesters. Yeah, I mean, that's the story is basically he told me to go to the accounting program at BYU. So I did. I'd never heard of it before. I had never kind of didn't have a clearly defined goal of what I wanted to do in my career, but he kind of laid all that out for me in an interview at the end of my mission. kind of interesting how he was that in tune with kind of his missionaries of what they needed to hear, and it wasn't just about like, hey, can we get results here out of my mission? It's like, how can I help these young men like succeed after? And he was really good at that for the missionaries, and especially for me, right? Because I ended up at BYU, went through their accounting program, which is a very elite program in terms of college rankings, and kind of established the basis for my whole career.
Well, take us through that. Like, what you went to BYU, you did accounting as your major, then went to business school. Did you get an MBA or a Master's of Accounting, or
Yeah,
what?
so graduated with my undergrad in 2012 in
Okay,
accounting, and then I spent about 5 years in public accounting practice, auditor and different things like that. Like worked at Goldman Sachs, worked at EY, and I didn't go back to get my master's degree until 2016 up at the University of Utah. So
okay,
up north here in Utah, and I did my master's degree in finance.
okay.
So I do have a CPA license. I have a master's degree in finance, and so currently, kind of has kind of enabled me to sit in the seat I'm in now, which is I work as a CFO for a real estate development and construction company.
Okay. Well, where does your allegiance lie then? Are you a Cougar or are you a Ute? Like when they play each other, who do you?
Yeah. So in terms of sports, I'll always be a Cougar. That's because
Okay.
that's what Dad brought us up to be.
Okay.
Some of my favorite Ojai memories are like every fall conference in October. Remember the Saturday night priesthood sessions that you used to have to go to? Well,
Yep.
maybe not here in Utah, but in California, you had to go to
Yep.
the chapel to watch it. And so guys in the ward would always have like BYU games running because they'd always play Utah State the same night as priesthood conference session. And so like we'd have like a baked potato bar. People would be watching the game while we're watching that priesthood session of conference. And of course, my dad was the type where he'd always, you shouldn't be watching this while we're trying to watch conference. Don't pay attention to that. Don't watch that. But just like when it wasn't a church interference thing, Dad was hardcore BYU, and so that's why we're Cougars through and through in terms of sports affiliation. I actually really liked my time at the University of Utah in terms of academics a lot, but more than BYU.
Interesting. Why?
I don't know. I growing up in California, if you grow up outside of the Utah church culture, you kind of grow up in like, hey, we're just good being members of the church. You know what I mean? Like we can be friends just because we both have this same religious affiliation. It was pretty culture shocky to me coming here to Utah, where it was like a competition of who's more righteous than who,
Yeah.
and like, well, you're not super active in your ward. Are you sure you should be going to BYU? I'm like, yeah. Is that a problem? Yeah. I mean, you should reserve that spot for someone who cares more about the church than you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought as long as I pay my tuition and I'm a church member and I got in, I think I have every right to be here. So I like had a lot of experiences like that at BYU where the religion clashes with the academics, and like, guys, I'm here to get an accounting degree. Like I go to church on Sundays and that's where I get my religion. Like I didn't find it especially appealing to have the two overlap.
Yeah.
I'm the one uncommon BYU person where I really didn't like my religion classes at BYU because I just didn't like being graded on what I got out of the scriptures.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like this is personal to everybody. I don't feel like you should grade me and say this is wrong. This is not what that scripture was trying to say. I
Interesting.
didn't enjoy that.
You're like, I'm
I
just
think,
here to get an accounting degree. I'm not here to become the prophet or whatever. Like, I'm just here to just get a degree and get out of here.
yeah. I was like, I'm here to learn how to do accounting. Like, I don't. My lowest grade at BYU was marriage, home, and family, and I'd been married for 2 years at that point.
They're like, oh man, how's your marriage doing? You got to be in this class. You're doing okay.
Well,
It's
it's
like, yeah, we're
the
fine.
guy like he went on this whole tangent about like how everyone in a marriage is an agent unto themselves, and write me an essay on what that means to you. And I'm like, honestly, I have no idea what that means. I think to be a good husband, you just don't be a dick and put your wife's needs before yours. Like, why do I have to write this whole essay about being an agent unto myself? I don't understand. I'm like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And so I got a C in that class, and that's my lowest grade at BYU.
How do you even like put that to paper where it's like, I think being an agent unto myself is just treating my wife the way I would like to be treated,
Yeah.
and not be a dick, and to It's gotta be tough to put into
And that's
paper.
kind of what I wrote in my final, because that's all you had to write, and it was, I can't remember exactly, but I got something like a response of like, were you even paying attention this year?
Can't
Yeah,
remember.
it was a big turnoff to me where I'm like, I regret taking this class big time.
I had a class at BYUI, and I knew I wasn't gonna enjoy the class just based on the professor alone, because he got up and he was like, he's a good guy. He's a religion teacher. He's teaching Book of Mormon, but he had 9 kids, and his 9 kids were named Gordon, Thomas, Ezra, Joseph, Brigham, Emma, God, and
No
just
Nephi's
and 3
and
other
Lehi.
prophets. Yeah, they're all not Lehi. No, it's all like prophets after the '60s, and then Joseph Smith
Yeah.
thrown in there. Every single one of them, like Thomas Monson, Robertson, or Gordon Hinckley Roberts. I'm just like, oh, this guy, he's
Yeah, he's like so hardcore, he can't take a
like-
breath.
yeah, God bless him, but yeah, the class went exactly as you would expect. But you said, okay, so you were married by that point. I'm curious to know that story. How did you at what point did your wife kind of come into your life? How'd you guys meet? Was it in
Yeah,
Virginia? Was it in Chile? Was it in Provo?
No,
Like where?
a couple year. I met Shannon a couple months after getting to Utah to go to BYU. So I did the summer semester, June 2008, and I met her at work in October 2008 at Vivint, like the famous Utah company. You've definitely heard of Vivint.
Oh, yeah.
So she and I were both working in customer service. She was going to UVU. I was going to BYU. I mean, it's not like a super interesting story. I think it's just kind of, the story is a good summation of kind of how our relationship is. Where the first, I'd known her for like a few months at work before I'd actually ever talked to her. She was just kind of known as like super fiery and spicy. Like don't get on Shannon's bad side. And one time she was what they would call walking the floor, which means an experienced customer service agent would walk around and help those who needed help, right? It's called walking the floor. You just you're a roamer and you help other customer service agents. And I was new at the time, and I needed help with something, so I flagged her down. I said, hey, can you help me with this? And she comes up to me, and it was something pretty easy. So she just said, okay, let me help you, short bus. And I responded, well, hey, that's not cool. Like, one of my brothers is actually really retarded. And she thought that was hilarious. And
It's hilarious.
you know, we didn't really date. We actually, that kind of opened the door for us to be friends. We didn't actually go on a date. Like, that place was, I didn't really like working there because the guys would always be super like aggressive, sexually harassy towards the women. And there was this dude, yeah, it was just like, it's like one of those college only places where there's not a lot of adult supervision. Everyone's just sitting there on a call. Guys are all kind of like trashy. And she would just get hit on constantly. Like every guy in the building would like make inappropriate comments to her. And there's this guy named Mick, and he would just constantly be like, Shannon, when are you going to go on a date with me? When are you going to go on a date with me? You should go out with me. You're so hot. And it really just got on my nerves because it was like, bro, dude, just give her a second to breathe. Like, if it's not obvious to you she wants nothing to do with you, you are the stupidest guy on the planet. Like, you've asked her this 100 times, and she's disgusted by you. And so finally, at one time I was sitting when he did this, I was sitting close to him. Finally, I was just like, Mick, she's not going to go on a date with you because she's going out with me. And I swear to this day, like, I didn't have a huge crush on her. I thought she was mean. And so that kind of like really broke the ice for us and got us talking. And so when we finally started talking, you know, then I just don't remember exactly how it happened, but we just kind of said, hey, yeah, let's maybe try it out. Let's actually try going on a date. So we did go on a date, and last girl I ever went on a date with. So what's funny is I think I was late to that date, and she still ended up marrying me. So
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's crazy. You guys made it Vivint. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all that story you said, because like Vivint has a reputation here in Utah for a reason, and it's
Yeah.
just stories like that just continue to feed into it. But
just
you
like
guys met
tons
at-
of
Bros.
tons of young people working there where, you know, you just spend a lot of time together. It was kind of that classic, easy story. And then, I would say like from there, after those initial interactions, things were pretty easy. Um, we were both kind of ready and both knew what we were looking for. We both dated a lot before then. And, yeah, I'd just say, now we're 17 years in next month. So
Dude, congrats, man. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's very cool. So you meet Shannon. You guys get married. You guys both go to BYU.
No, well, she dropped out of school shortly after that, and she supported us for a long time. But yeah, I'm the only college
Working
grad
mom.
in the
Okay.
fam. Yeah, she put us through it.
Dude, that's awesome. What did she do to put you guys through it?
Collections, so
No
people who
way.
didn't pay their bills.
Dude, that
Yeah.
job has to suck, man. Like, what was her experience like doing that?
No, she was really good at it. Like, she was that type of person that would call, and she always laughs about it to this day. Like, she could just dial down the emotions, and she would call someone and they would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my dog died. I can't pay my bill this month." And she'd be like, "I'm sorry, what's your credit card number?" "Well, I just said I can't pay it." She'd be like, "No, I'm sorry, what's your credit card number?" She's like, you just had to be that person in collections and understand that, like, she's like 99% of the time you learn that they're just lying. It's a my
Yeah.
dog ate my
Oh, yeah.
homework. I just don't want to pay my bill. And so she just got really really good at it. Like, I think to this day she like made 75 grand one year in like 2009, our first year we were married, just like off commissions of calling people and getting them to pay their bills.
Wow.
Yeah, she was damn good at it until, I graduated in 2012. Then she didn't work as much seriously after that.
Hmm. Okay, so you meet Shannon. You guys get married. You graduate. When do kids come into play?
So Steven is our first kid. You've probably, through the other brothers, have kind of heard our path here to have. So we just had our fifth, so we have five kids.
Very cool.
We had been married about 7 years, and Steven needed a new home. You tell me if you want to go into that story. It's a little bit dark.
Yeah, I do.
But
I
I
mean,
think
this
of
is
me and all my brothers, I think I'm willing to tell it a little more factually honest
okay.
than I think some of the others, because it's a hard story for them to hear. It's a hard story to hear about your brother, someone who you love and grew up with. But that was our first kid, was Steven. So Steven was the first one we got. And then shortly after, we got pregnant with our first daughter. So they came within a year of each other. And it's coming up on 10. Well, no, actually, she was a year after him, because he's been with us 10 years now. So we've had Steven since 2015, the fall of 2015.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear it. I want to hear the story, man. This whole podcast, like what John's vision for it is that you guys can preserve it and then pass it on to your great grandkids or whatever. These videos of the Bigglers are just floating around YouTube for the next 200 years.
Yeah.
And so I think the story is important, man. I mean, it sounds like it's a very real and honest story, and I think that's kind of a theme with the Bigler family, is that they're very genuine, very transparent of like, this is how the world works, this is what we do to survive, and this is what we do to take care of each other, take care of other people. So like, yeah, if you're willing to share, man, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so give some context around David, right? Like, my view of David is that basically at 12 years old he stopped maturing. I think in joking, I don't know if it's a psychological term, arrested development comes to mind. Of course, he was bipolar, of course, right? His moods were tough, but I think there was definitely more than that going on. Being his younger brother, 6 years younger than him, what was weird is when I was 12 and he was 18, or when I was 13 and he was 19, it was obvious I was already more mature than him. Right? And so with David, I mean, I think that's one of the big challenges. Like, what I have a hard time with, being a pretty logical, factual person, is David did a ton of things in his life that were not good and not fair and were very hurtful and damaging to people in his life. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not God. I don't know if he holds full accountability for those things, because I don't know the full extent of his mental illness, if that's fair to say, right? But David did do some pretty terrible things, namely to Steven, his stepson. When Stephen was about 14 years old, David beat him up, physically abused him. David pinned him up against the wall and was choking him out. And for I'm very grateful that his piece of crap mother did one of the only good things she did in her life, and she physically wrestled David off of Stephen and saved his life. So I think that's the dark part of the story that the others don't want to tell or they want to minimize. I don't know how accountable David is for that behavior personally, because I don't know how mentally ill he was. But did he do it? Yes. He did it. No one forced him to do it. He wasn't intoxicated or anything like that. It was as a result of Stephen talking back to him as a 14-year-old. So, as a result, my mom removed Stephen from the home. So when Stephen was 14, my mom took Stephen away, and he went to go live with her for the next year. Just Stephen. The rest of the kids stayed with him. Look, we can have a whole social services conversation about should she have done more. I don't really want to go down that path, but at the end of the day, at least she saved Stephen and got him out of there. Over the next year, it became pretty obvious my mom just wasn't in a place well equipped to raise another teenager, which, of course, who is, in their 60s, having been 10 years removed from your husband being, passing away.
Who is in their 30s or 40s or 50s, man? Teenagers. They're hard.
They're hard. And Stephen is fun. He's the best. I'll talk more about him, but he's got a lot of challenge. Like, I would say he has a lot of challenges from the way he was raised, but not the worst ones, not the ones you should be scared of. So about a year in, it was pretty obvious that she was really struggling with him. We didn't have any kids at the time, so Shannon and I volunteered to take him in. So he came to live with us in Harriman, Utah, when he was 14. I think he was going into 8th grade. And he's been our son ever since. So I guess we could talk a little bit about Stephen. He's like fun. I can't talk about Stephen without smiling, but also being frustrated. Like, he's the only kid I know that got straight F's in high school. I've never met anyone else that failed ceramics.
That's tough.
And when he was coming to live with us, my mom would always say, "You'll see, he's one of the hardest kids you've ever met. Like, he's water." Which basically what she means by that is water will actively work to find its easiest route, right? Like, yep. Water will expend energy finding its easiest route. And it's a really good metaphor for Stephen, that he is water. Is Stephen, I also think of Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. Like, he'll work all night to make sure nothing gets done.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to describe Stephen. I love him to death, and he's like such he's like the most easiest to love, the friendliest, like most pleasant person to be around. But also you want to bang your head against the wall, because you could teach him verbally teach him a basic life lesson 100 times, and he just won't ever do it because he doesn't want to.
Dude, nice Parks and Rec reference too, man. That's a good reference.
I love Ron Swanson.
Me too.
Favorite all-time character in a sitcom. So I know you talked about a lot of like lighter stuff with my other brothers, and if you want, we can get into that. But I love Parks and Rec.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, Stephen was our first. So that was our challenge with him. Is like, how do you get him to do anything? How do you get him to graduate high school? Like, honest to goodness, like, he shouldn't have graduated high school, but nowadays, the way the education system is designed, they refuse to hold kids back and keep them out of high school or keep them from graduating. It's like, it's the weirdest thing, and I hate it, but they force them to graduate even if they're not ready. And you know what? It's interesting because academically, he's one of the largest failures I've ever seen. But in his personal life and in his professional life, he's doing okay. No problems. He's been married for a year now. Got a lovely wife. She's way too good for him. He makes plenty of money doing party promotions and club promotions. Just kind of stable, paying all his bills. Don't have to take care of him financially, and he's good. He's 25. He's doing great. Seriously, no complaints.
Dude, good for him, man. That's awesome.
He works for me some, and mostly I've had to fire him out of our family businesses, but he's found his own way in other things, and he's found other people that'll pay him to do what he's good at. And like, I just kind of like, I'm in the stage of parenting with him where it's like, I can give him some husband advice at times, but otherwise he's kind of on his own doing things well. He's got his own place to live. He's paying all his own bills, paying for his own cars. His next big hurdle is insurance. That's next year, but like he's well on track.
Good for him, man. That's awesome. That's
Great.
what more could you want? Like, I think what more could you want is like a dad where your kid's making money, he's not dependent on you to survive, and he's found someone that loves him, that's not causing active harm to him.
Yep. And like the biggest complaint his mom has is like, oh, he always puts his wife's needs before our families. And I'm like, so he's a good husband?
Yeah.
Like that's your complaint about him?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he's doing great. Like he has come a really long way. Like obviously his life, his childhood experiences, you could do a whole other podcast about talking about the stories of what he had to deal with growing up. How he basically had to raise his 3 younger siblings who are now with Dawn. And all of the things his parents put him through. I know that there's worse experiences that kids have been through, but no kid should have to go through what Stephen went through. And the fact that he is a functioning member of society now where he still has a lot of anxiety for things, but mostly he's mastered it all.
Yeah.
And look, like at the end of the day, Shannon and I don't deserve a lot of credit because I would say Steven did more positive for us than I think we did for him. But at the end of the day, all we really did was give him a home where he was loved and he had stability and he got discipline. Like that's all he needed. He didn't need to be treated like he was broken. He didn't need to be treated like that he was, something that we needed to care for constantly. He just needed to be treated like a normal kid, which was crazy.
I think in my work with so many like broken families and kids that have an experience similar to like your son, I learned a lot about parenthood. I'm not a parent myself, but I think a big part of parenthood, honestly, is just showing up.
Yep.
Showing up, providing a house, love, discipline, like love without conditions too, I think is so important. And I mean, if a kid is born, we tell kids this all the time, if you're born to a place where your parents are there or one parent is there and they love you, they don't ask anything from you as far as like a condition to that love, and they're stable,
Yep.
like you've hit the jackpot. And
Yep.
a lot of the kids don't have that.
Like the biggest lesson we learned with Steven is like it's totally okay to hit him with a verbal stick and just be like, you're doing this wrong. You're making a mistake. You need to fix it, and then immediately go in with a soft, tender moment hug.
Yeah.
And be like, but you are so loved and you're loved unconditionally. Me telling you that you're making bad choices is not me telling you you're not loved. It's actually the opposite. It's me telling you that you are loved, and that's why I'm willing to call you to account.
Yep. I had a
And it just to watch him thrive under that has been amazing. Like he's really thrived as a human being. One of my proudest moments as a dad is like Mike Rowe actually offers this test to parents. Do you know who Mike Rowe is? Dirty Jobs.
yeah.
He was on PragerU one time and he said, ask your kids, what do you think I want you to be when you grow up? And if the response is anything other than a good person, you failed them as a parent.
Dang, dude.
That's Mike Rowe. That's not me. And so we tested that on Steven. And I'm like, Steven, what do you think I want you to be when you grow up? And he's like, well, I suppose a good person. And I was like, all right, I did it.
You're like,
I'm done here. Yeah.
that's awesome, dude.
I was like, I'm done here. I've accomplished it. And so it's like we've learned that the hard way where like my parents did a lot of things exceptionally. And I think one of the things they did really, really well is instilling us that like, hey, you need to make a good living when you grow up, especially by going to school. And so that was a hard adjustment for me with Steven that I just think biologically he's not capable of it. Like he's not capable of sitting in a classroom and learning.
Yeah.
I think that's a common misconception in the modern day education system is like not all kids are capable of learning off of a chalkboard. He's just not. Like I've spent enough time trying to teach him math problems that he just does not learn that way. The way you teach him a math problem is get him out there and basically tell him, here's algebra, Steven. If you hand out 500 flyers for this party, you'll make $2,000. How much money do you make on each flyer? He's like $4. And And I'm like, dude, I tried to explain that to you 8,000 times on paper and you couldn't get it. He's like, again, an Office reference. He's like Kevin. Remember with Kevin?
Yeah.
Like they can't get him to do any basic math, but how long does it take to drive to the pie store? And he nails it. Steven's that exact same way. And so, like, I think for me, a big learning experience as a parent is like, Steven, don't even try going to college. It's a waste of your money and time. I was like, go start learning life lessons by getting jobs and getting fired and learning what it takes to be a good professional employee. And that's what he's done. So, yeah, it's an interesting experience. I'm probably the only bigler you'll hear to say I actively discourage my son from chasing a secondary education.
I think your comment about discipline too is awesome. To where I had another basketball coach when I was young that gave me a really good piece of advice is because I used to always get upset with my dad or my mom or my coach when they're like getting on me. I'm like, what do you want from me? Like, you're always on my butt. You're always up my ass. Like, what do you expect from me? And I had a coach pull me aside once. He just got really frustrated with me, and he was like, look, he's like, do you see me yelling at Jonathan over there? And I was like, well, no. And he was like, because I don't care. Like, I do not care enough about his progression as a basketball player to get on him.
Yeah.
And he was like, if I ever stop ripping your butt for the things that you do wrong, it's because I've just lost hope. I've just lost the desire to invest in you as a person because I no longer see that potential. And I started seeing that where it's like just when people kind of give you feedback and criticism and mentorship, I think is even like what I would call it, like as an older adult, like you thank them for it because it means they believe enough in you as a person to kind of see where you go. Like I see people making mistakes that I just don't say anything to because I just don't care enough about them to invest in their well-being. And so I think discipline and mentorship and that kind of stuff you were talking about is such an act of love, like a parent that can give their kid. And if you don't have it, like in a form of like it's not abusive or it's not with love on the end, I mean, it would like it's really good.
And I
really
think
good for him.
You nailed it on the head for Steven. Most of his childhood trauma was actually the other side. Like, sure, it culminated in him being physically abused, and I should caveat, it wasn't a pattern of it, right? It was a one, but once is more than it. Right, all it takes is once, and once is more than is acceptable. But most of Steven's trauma from his childhood was from being ignored. It was, there was a whole book about this, I think, that was popular in the 90s, right? A Child Called It.
Yep.
And I think that is Steven's upbringing, is him not having any adult actively engaged in his life. So, no adult cares what's going on at school. No adult cares what to feed him. Him being the one to initiate taking care of his younger siblings because they're running around with poopy diapers or they're collapsing, falling asleep on the ground. So like that, but that is real trauma, right? Like children need parenting. They need accountability. They need love. And to have all of that not exist from them is very, very bad for their development. So, yeah, I mean, that's Steven. We could, like I said, I could talk about Steven all day.
Well, before we move on from Steven, I want to know what your favorite thing about Steven is.
I love Steven's sociable personality. Steven has taught me really what it means to have street smarts. And what I mean by that is Steven has the ability to connect with another human being in an instant, which is a skill that school will tell you is we can't teach that. So why is that a valuable skill? So you've met Steven, right? You've been in the room with him, right? He has the ability. He just comes up to you and immediately makes you feel like, oh man, this guy is my best friend.
Yeah, he's cool.
And I love that about him. And so one of my favorite things, we own a knife company, our family, this Bigler family. I love taking him to shows and just go let him wander. And an hour later, he'll come back and be like, Dad, this is the owner of Blade HQ. They're the largest retailer of knives in the country. This is a true story. And he's like, and they want to buy some knives from us. Can they do that? And now that customer buys about $5,000 worth of knives every month.
Dude, no way.
Because Steven just goes up to this guy who's like a multimillionaire and just starts, hey, I'm Steven. My dad owns Daily Carry Co. What do you do? And the guy's like, well, isn't it obvious? Don't you know? And no, and he just has this ability to win people over, which it's funny because yeah, I have all of these really good book smarts where I have this master's degree and CPA license, but in a lot of ways he's so much more blessed than me professionally because like what he does for a living now is he basically gets people to go to a club and he gets like 2,000 a week from getting people to go work at this club and he works like 15 hours a week. I'm like, dang, kind of wish that were my life.
What a badass dude.
I know.
I forgot you had that knife cover too. I need to get a new knife from you because one of the kids from our foundation stole mine. You gave me this sweet one that you flip open.
Yeah.
I need to get another one, so I need you to send me
Yeah,
a link.
or not.
That's what
Yeah,
you
we
buy
could
one.
again in a whole nother podcast of how that came to be, and it's been a really fun journey. And
Dude, that was my favorite knife until she stole it from me, stupid teenager. And she was like, "Oh no, I don't know where it went," but I gave it to her because you wanted to see it. Forgot about it, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. And I'm like, I want it back. Like that was my favorite knife. Like so easy to carry in my pocket. And she's like, "Oh, sorry." So I might have to have you send me a link to your website, and I'll buy another one.
yeah, sounds
But-
good. I'll send it right after. Send you some discount codes too.
Yeah, I do. That would be awesome. Okay, so next kid.
Yeah. So then, if we spend this much time on each kid, Steven gets the most highlight and focus, right? But we have next come two girls, Ainsley and Edie,
Okay.
and our other son Deacon, and then we just had a baby in January named Indy. So yeah, Ainsley's kind of my what's the right way to describe her? She's like our nerdy, sciencey kid, our
Nice.
lover. Edie is a little bit more like her mom and I. She's our fiery athlete who's good at everything and drives everyone crazy. Kind of grateful she's not my oldest because she would suck the air out of every room she's in. She's by far the hardest kid. And then Deacon is my little buddy. He's by far the easiest kid. Just easygoing, funny as all get out. Cute little guy who actually kind of looks like Scott. It's weird to me. And then our baby Indy, she's only 2 months old, so just a good baby. Sleeps pretty good, pukes a lot,
No.
kind of as babies do.
Huh. Okay, so your first girl, what was her name?
Ainsley,
How old is she?
she'll be 9 this month.
Okay, what's your favorite thing about her?
Oh man, that's a really hard question. Like, what's your one favorite thing about every kid?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. So if you want to just
Yeah,
knock out
yeah.
do that. I assume the baby, like she sleeps and she's a good baby.
Yeah. I'm probably unique amongst men on this, but with almost all of our kids, I take all the night shifts. Just because I don't know, I kind of enjoy the quiet time and
Yeah.
I function better with no sleep than my wife, and I actually really don't mind it that much. Is it weird to say? So, so I've been up with the baby a lot at night, but I love cuddling the baby. That's like my favorite thing with this baby. She's so freaking cuddly. So Ainsley was never cuddly. We'll talk about Ainsley, my oldest girl. She was never cuddly. My favorite thing about her is she's kind of this fun little nerd where like the other day she wrote a book on bees and it was like a textbook. And I'm just sitting here smiling. I'm like, what 8-year-old thinks it's fun to write textbooks? So it's just a book about bee facts. And she's like, Mom and Dad, I need pictures to put in my bee book. I'm like, cool, dude. So she's kind of like, I love that she's a nerd. I was always kind of a nerd in terms of school, like getting good grades and stuff like that. So I really love that about her. Second daughter, Edie, she's freaking hilarious. Like, she's that kid where she drives me nuts to no ends and then has the ability to make me laugh right after. One of her favorite things to do is I'll be sitting there reading or doing whatever, and she'll come up to me, she'll put her hand on my shoulder like an adult, and she'll be like, nice outfit, Dad. Or she'll go, nice outfit, Clark. And she does it just to troll me. And it's like, I should be mad at you. You're being a little punk but it just cracks me up.
How old is
Nice
she?
outfit, Clark.
Is she 7?
Deacon is my little shadow. I love that most about him. Everywhere I go, he wants to go. He thinks I'm the coolest. He thinks everything I do is the coolest. Thinks my truck is the coolest thing ever.
Cool, man.
Yeah, it's like, I feel bad for any dad that doesn't have a little boy like that who just wants to, like, his idea of the funnest thing ever is spending time with me, and so I'm like, that's awesome. Whereas my girls think I'm kind of lame and stupid.
Ah,
You know, that's kind of girls. They think their mom is the best and their dad is the worst.
huh.
Um,
You
of
get
course
teenagers,
they
then
love
you
it.
guys both become bad guys for 4
Yeah.
years, and then they
Yeah.
turn 20, and then best friends until
Yeah, girls are way harder than boys.
Yeah, they
for
are.
sure. Even now at 6 and 9, my girls are way harder than Steven ever was.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just love that he's my little shadow.
Cool.
John might have told you some of the funny stories. He's obsessed with fans. Oh my gosh, he is obsessed with fans. We have like all we ever get him for like birthdays and Christmas are fans, like air, like oscillating fans, like a circular fan that blows
Huh.
air. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever.
Why?
Just loves it. Loves that they spin. Loves that they blow air. Loves turning them on and off. That they have an engine. Just thinks they're cool. Finds them everywhere we go. He thinks air conditioners are the coolest thing ever because air conditioners have a giant fan and they make a bunch of cool noise.
That is cool. Air
Yeah,
conditioners
he
are
just
cool.
thinks they're awesome. Like that's what I think is fun about little boys is like they think fans are awesome.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
My nephew right now, he's obsessed with milk jugs.
Yeah.
We don't know why, but like when we get him gifts, it's like you just empty out the milk jug when it's done. You know, when you're done using it, you just give
Put
it
it
to
in the
him.
milk
He'll
jug,
play with
right?
it for 3 weeks. Yeah, he'll just
Yeah.
shake it around. He'll shake it. He'll put things in it. He'll paint it. It's just
And the more people I talk to, that's like pretty common with boys is they get like hyper focused on one thing and then they love it.
yeah. Makes
So
him
that's-
super entertained too. You're like, just take your
Yeah.
milk jug, buddy.
Yeah, he's like fan. That's
Dude.
when he sees one, he's always like fan. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever, and he has to go run up to it. I mean, it's starting to get annoying for my wife because during the day he always tries to escape the house. So he knows where all of our neighbors' air conditioners are. He tries to escape the house and go see the air conditioners in the neighborhood. That's like his favorite activity right now, and I get it for a mom with 5 kids and a 2-year-old. That's like really hard to manage.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. And then, of course, like I said, with the baby, she's so cuddly and she just wants to be held all the time. And that's really hard right now, but it's also really fun because this is definitely going to be our last kid. And it's kind of nice to snuggle all the time. So
Yeah. Huh.
like this morning from 4 to 7 a.m., she was grunting in her bassinet, so I just brought her into bed and she just laid on my chest and slept with me the rest of the morning.
Dude, that's cool, man. What a good life you got, man. Sounds like you put yourself a pretty good life.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's hectic.
So what's your next step, man? Like, if this podcast, stays on YouTube for the next 200 years, like, what do you hope is next for your 10 years, 20 years?
Well, the last couple years, I recently discovered that having my own knife business would really be my life's passion.
Yeah, well, tell me about it.
I
Why?
just professionally, I'm a accountant and a finance professional, and I get paid a good amount of money to do it. But it doesn't bring me joy like designing knives are, and designing knives is, and sharing that with my customer base. Like, Mike Rowe. I've listened to a lot of Mike Rowe over the years, right? And he talks a lot about finding joy in your workplace, and he'll focus a lot more on like the joy you find from your workplace is not in the work itself. It's in the pride you take in your output, and in supporting your family. Because he's the one that always says like, telling kids to follow your dreams is the stupidest thing you could ever tell a kid. Because he's like 99.9% of us don't get to follow your dreams and do exactly what you want to do the rest of your life. He was like, if you ask 99% of teenage boys what they want to do, it's like, hey, I want to either be a rapper, singer, play basketball or football, and that's my career. And he's like, only 0.1% of them get paid to do that. So telling them, oh, you can follow your dreams, you just need to work hard, is ridiculously stupid and just not realistic. And so, it's one of these podcasts I've listened to him where he talks about the happiest people he knows are like the guy who owns a septic tank cleaning business who literally shovels shit for his job. And he's one of the happiest people he's ever met because he works for himself and he makes a couple million a year. So
I'm kidding.
So, I've thought a lot about that, right? And for me, I don't particularly love accounting and finance, right? I do find pride and joy in a good output and accomplishing things. That definitely gives me a form of gratification. But I've found with the knife business, like actually designing a knife and putting it through process and then selling it to customers actually does give me pleasure and gratification. Like it gets me excited. I will dream about it and get excited about it. And so for me, what's so exciting about the prospect of this business is the convergence of a passion with being able to support my family. Now, I'd say the harsh reality I've been faced with over the last 2 years is that's really hard and it's going to take a really long time. I was kind of hoping and dreaming it would go a lot faster. But it's just, business is unforgiving. The business world, it's very competitive. And the harsh reality of owning your own business is that you actually just have more bosses instead of less. So, we've been working hard at it. Haven't had huge gains like we wanted to in the last couple of years. We've had some challenges with our investors. I've learned a ton and I'm super grateful for it. But in 10 years, right, if we look back at this, and if in 10 years I have a business partner who I'm best friends with, if he and I are the only full-time employees of our knife company and that's what I'm doing with my life, I would say that's where I really want to be. Because, going back to something you said, making money is just a means to an end for me. If I didn't need money, I wouldn't be working at all. I would be spending quantity of time with my kids. So one of the wisest pieces of advice I've ever gotten is the biggest fallacy of parenthood is that you have to spend quality time with your kids. It's the biggest fallacy in parenting. You only should focus on quantity of time. It doesn't matter how good that time you spent together was. Your kids are only going to remember that you spent a lot of time together.
Yep.
And so for me, all of this is a means to an end to spend more time with my family and do more things with my kids. Take them outdoors, go razoring, go camping, travel, go see the world, teach them things. What I would do if I didn't need money is I would homeschool my kids and I would travel around the world homeschooling them. I would say, we're not going to learn about ancient Greece in a book. We're going to go learn about ancient Greece by walking the sites where they walked. You know what I mean? Like, if money were no longer an object for me, that's what I would be spending all my time doing. It would be parenting my children, and it would be teaching them life lessons and not sending them to a public school where people are going to teach them what they think their most important life lessons are.
Huh. Fascinating. Good take, though. I think it's a good piece of advice even to pass on this podcast when it comes to working and career advice and spending time with your family. Because one of the things I was going to ask you, and you can answer too if you want, but like John mentioned that you're the CFO, that you've opened a bunch of businesses. Like, what business advice would you pass on to your kids, if any, or would the advice be like just work hard to spend time with your family? Like, I'm curious, like what would your comment be?
Oh man, I have a lot of business advice. So one of the things we didn't even touch on is I've had the highest highs and the lowest lows in terms of my professional life, and I'm a recovering addict of entrepreneurship. So part of that journey in my life is I was the CFO of a construction company called Magleby Construction.
Okay.
That was back in like early 2020s, right as COVID started. I left that company to co-found and work with some of my former best friends from college to start a company called PillowCube. And PillowCube went from $0 in revenue in like 2021 to in 2023, I think we did 30 million. So like went gangbusters. We made a ton of money. It's a whole long story, but it all came crashing down. So I kind of went from being on top of the world, being worth a lot of money, having all the financial freedom that I wanted, to now being saddled with a lot of post-business ownership debt and having to, a lot of what I make now goes to just paying off a lot of the stuff of that failure. So like, I could do a whole podcast about all the things I learned from going from the highest highs to the lowest lows, including, how I should have managed my personal life better, to avoid catastrophe in the personal life financially. how we got there in terms of the hyper growth and what I learned from failure, because I definitely learned a ton from failure. But back to your kind of question, which is like, how does that bleed? My biggest piece of advice is don't let the professional bleed into your personal. Your personal should be a constant, and your family should come first no matter what, regardless of what's going on in your professional life. There's always work to do tomorrow. So like, I to this day, like 5 to 7 p.m. is sacred for my family. No matter how much I have to do I actually own 2 businesses. One is my accounting firm, one is my knife company, and then I have a day job. So what's going on with those 3 professionally doesn't matter. I still don't work from 5 to 7 because that's time to be with my kids, feed them, and put them to bed. So if there's something so critical that needs to be done, it needs to get done between 8 and 5 or 7 to midnight. Carving out time for your kids is like the most important thing you can do in your life, because you don't get any of that time back.
That's awesome. I think this is important for every father to pass on to their kids is, how do you rebound from potentially like your lowest moment professionally? Because I think it happens to all of us, happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And like rebounding can be tough, like searching for jobs and paying off debt. And when someone feels, and like when you talk about men specifically, a lot of men's suicides come when they lose their jobs, when they feel like they aren't worth anything as a man, not a good provider, they do all these different things. And so I think the advice, if you have any, if you want to share it, would be really valuable. So
in terms of how it happened, of the founding 5 partners, you could ask all 5 of us, and we'll all tell a different story of why it came crashing down, right?
Okay.
Ultimately, it came crashing down because the company was unable to fulfill its debt and cash obligations, right? That's how a company fails. How it came to that point is where you'd get 5 different stories. In my opinion, the main guy, the CEO, the inventor of the Pillow Cube, just had too much appetite for risk and too much appetite for growth. So in my opinion, as the CFO, there was never enough growth for him. So in the beginning, when the product was first introduced to the market, it caught on really quickly. People loved it. There was a niche for it where it's like this side sleeping pillow where it's just new and novel. And to that 0 to 20 million, the growth was really easy. But he always had it in his mind he was going to be a 100 million business. And so he pushed and pushed and pushed and spent every last dime we made plus a bunch of dimes that we borrowed to get to 30 million. So from 0 to 20 million, we were very profitable and everyone was loving it. We were all having a great time. From 20 million to 30 million, he spent everything we made and more. And he had the mentality of like, we're going to do this and we're going to do it. And a lot like the good CEOs that you hear about, which is like, hey, shape up or ship out. We're going to do it my way or the highway. And he said that to me a few times when I pushed back on him as the CFO of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be taking this much risk. Maybe we shouldn't be buying this much inventory and spending this much on marketing when it's proven that it doesn't work very well. And he would always respond with, well, you can always quit.
Dickhead.
And so to me, that's why it came crashing down, right? Is he ended up just pushing too hard on growth when it was unprofitable growth. And look, I'm not going to lie and say that like it's an easy rebound from that kind of failure, because I'm still massively tied. It's business debt, but I'm tied to it personally. And it is a lot of money that I pay every month to pay back something that it's going to provide zero personal value to our to me. I'm not investing in anything. I'm just paying back people for something that failed and is gone. So I'm not going to lie and say that like emotionally that's easy to handle. I lost my 4 best friends from this too, because their version of events is, Clark was such a bad CFO, he never told us that things were going to come crashing down. Because the other 3 guys other than me didn't have the moral fortitude to say, Jay, you were wrong, when I was the only one that did. And I say, like, look, I'm not trying to blame you. I'm just saying you made bad decisions. And I tried to tell you not to make those bad decisions. And he turned it around and said, well, I made bad decisions because you didn't give me good financial information. And I'm like, that's just gaslighting. Because I could pull up 1,000 emails over the last 4 years to show you all the times I told you that we shouldn't take this risk. And so the other three guys, I'm not friends with them anymore because none of them stepped up to say, hey, like, no, Clark's actually the one that's right. Because this all came to a head one day when he came in and fired me and told the entire company that the company was failing because of the CFO. So I think harder for me was the losing the friends. Like if the story was like it came crashing down and we're still tight, like there was no there was no blame thrown. It just is what it is. Like, I think I'd be doing a lot better with it than I was because for 4 years, these guys, I was with them every single day, 8 hours a day, my best friends. We had lunch together almost every single day. And then overnight, they were all turning around, pointing the finger and saying, you're the problem. That was really, really hard emotionally to deal with. At some point, you just have to decide that those people don't control my life and that they're not the only friends I can make and that they're just not worth my friendship, and that my family matters a lot more than them. And so that kind of betrayal from family, I think, would be a lot harder to recover from. But since they're friends, I can make new friends, and I've made new friends, and I have old friends and other friends. And one of my business partners, he and I are still business partners, and we made it through together. So I think number one is just making the decision in your own mind that they're not going to control your personal outcomes from here on out. And then I think more than anything, the only piece of advice I could give to people is like professional failure is a lot easier to manage than personal tragedy and crap going on with your family. So every single day, no matter how hard it was to go through all the things I was going through, I was like, I still get to come home to wonderful children who love me and a wife who still loves me, and I still get to enjoy all those experiences, and I am not going to let this personal professional failure bleed into my personal life with my kids and let it ruin the vacations and the travel and the trips and just any of the time we spend together. So I just refuse to let it ruin that. And so for all the complaints I have about my professional life, my personal life is amazing. My kids are great. I'm very happy at home. My wife is amazing. So all of that just dwarfs the negative feelings I have for my professional life.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Cool, man. Well, to end, I do have some personal questions for you, if that's
Sure.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you like Ron Swanson, and do you like to teach your kids the Swanson Pyramid of Greatness?
The Swanson Pyramid of Greatness. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Fish. It's basically a vegetable. Stay away.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've watched the show a million times.
Capitalism, that one always gets me.
Yeah, capitalism. It's God's way of saying who is rich and who is weak.
Yeah. Why do you resonate with that character? Why is he like your comfort person? Do you think he's funny?
I think he quantifies a lot of the things I just talked about, like compartmentalizing your life. Where another one of my favorite quotes from him is he's like, first wife Tammy, second wife Tamara, I think this is the quote about like what do I, if my dying wish, I want to be on my bed. He's like, when I'm on my deathbed, I want both of my wives rushed to me so that I can tell them both to go to hell one more time.
Yeah.
Like, would I get married again? Of course. Because what's the purpose of life unless you believe in love? So, like, he's just this character that, like, compartmentalizes life where, like, he number one, he really exemplifies manhood, which I think it's such a shame that that Nick Offerman has turned out to be just kind of such a beta male in real life because in Ron Swanson he's like the epitome of what an actual good alpha male should be. And what that means is a protector of others. He is an amazing father. He is responsible financially. He is an entrepreneur, right? Like, he takes risks, but he's just like, he epitomizes what an amazing alpha male should be. Like, in all of these ways where, you know, he doesn't let anything kind of compromise his personal standards and ethics. And that's what I love about him so much. And of course, he's a humorous character. But at the end of the day, he has this code of life that he lives by, and he refuses to let anyone else shake him from his code and his principles. And in fact, he is the ever mentor to everyone in the show.
Yeah.
He's in essence, I have an affinity for dads, right? Like, and that's what Ron Swanson is he's the ultimate alpha dad.
Yeah.
And so I model a lot of my behavior around him, where it's like my needs always come second. I'm always out to take care of everyone else. And yeah, I mean, kind of overemphasizing the point at this point, but he's the ultimate alpha dad.
I think, gosh, there's what quote was it from? I just forgot what quote I was going to mention from Ron, but it's not even a quote. It's when they're shutting down the government and he's helping cut it. And he's in that meeting and he forgets to turn his ringtone off. And it's
the shotgun.
He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Turns it off.
I do love when he's sitting in the meeting though, and he's like, slash, shit.
Like he's like, "I'm part of a special task force to."
And for me, it's less about like, because there's some things I agree with him on politically, other things I don't. The character, not Nick Offerman, but like, for me, it's more about his uncompromising commitment to his principles. That's what resonates with me more.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. What about movie? Do you have a favorite movie you like? Are you a Tombstone fan like John, or do you have?
No. I did. Look, I like Tombstone. It was kind of fun. I was a little surprised that's his favorite because I fell asleep last time we watched it. It's a good movie. I have a lot of different favorites for a lot of different reasons. But because fatherhood is like one of the most important themes in my life, I probably resonate more to like fatherhood type movies. So Interstellar is one that comes to mind. Interstellar, man, I love that movie for a lot of reasons. Number one, like at its core, all the movie is a dad who's bending space and time to get back to his daughter, right? Yeah. Like that's the story of Interstellar. But like it gives me chills a little bit too with that's Nolan, right? Christopher Nolan.
Yep. Chris Nolan.
What gives me chills about that movie is I'm surprised more LDS people aren't gravitated to it because I just don't think they get it. But what Christopher Nolan is doing is explaining God and science's connection. He's explaining it in a movie where basically Anne Hathaway gives this amazing speech about how like why is it so hard for people to believe that love is part of science, and so that's kind of ties into a lot of this LDS belief that like God writes the laws of science and God is science, right? And that's what Nolan is trying to do with the movie. So like in terms of like deep, if you could watch just one movie for the rest of your life, probably Interstellar because the music is also amazing. Yep. Matthew McConaughey is just next level. So is Anne Hathaway in terms of their acting. Other movies that I love, for a one-time watched, I loved Pursuit of Happiness. Like that's a hard movie to watch more than once just because it's so freaking long and it's like it doesn't have amazing movie, but Will Smith, of course, is amazing in that movie. One of the only movies that brought tears to my eyes when he steps out and he raises his hands, when he gets the job. Because again, it's like it's a fatherhood story.
Yeah.
Another one that I love is About Time. It's probably a less popular movie. That's Donald Gleason and Rachel McAdams, where basically he's a time traveler. But the whole purpose of the movie is he stops time traveling just because you need to live every day in the moment with your kids and be a good dad. Again, it's a simple fatherhood theme. Man, I'm trying to rattle off my favorites. If we're going outside of movies, I'm much more of a bookie guy than my brothers.
That was my next question. Is a book?
Yeah.
Or books.
I love anything from Brandon Sanderson. I loved Mistborn Trilogy. Actually, for the opposite reason, I think Mistborn Trilogy is like one of the only like sci-fi fantasies that has a really good female protagonist. I love Stormlight Archive. That's another Brandon Sanderson. I loved Wheel of Time. That like really nerds me out if you're as nerdy as I am. Mm-hmm. Although I will say Wheel of Time 1 through 11 are not nearly as good as 12 to 14 because I just think Sanderson is a much better writer than Robert Jordan. Sanderson is an incredible writer. I loved Red Rising. Have you read Red Rising?
Nope.
Oh man, Red Rising. But
On the
what's
list.
hard about Red Rising is only books 1 through 6 are out. 7 hasn't been released yet, so I'm like really skeptical when it climaxes so well in book 6 that you're like, what is he going to do in book 7? They all have pretty heavy fatherhood themes. They all have really good like sci-fi god themes. I really enjoy because I spend so much of my day-to-day life in like the logical accounting numbers spreadsheets. I love to escape.
Yeah.
So I love sci-fi and fantasy. Project Hail Mary was a good book and a good movie I recently watched.
I like that one too.
Yeah. So I pretty much like love anything that can storytell really well, and I love really good acting. I will say this. Here's my controversial opinion. I hate Marvel movies. I cannot stand them.
Oh, why is that?
I can't stand the inconsistency of the world building, and like here's the way I make a metaphor for people to understand. Black Widow, who is an interesting, fun, cool character in her own show,
Yes.
has no place being in the same movie and fighting on the same side as Thor. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Thor is the god of thunder, who carries a hammer that is heavier than beyond all weight, who can call down lightning and could kill you in the snap of a finger. And Black Widow is like a really good spy that's good with a Glock.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, guys, they don't belong on the same show, and,
yeah.
and Black Widow does not have the same contributions to bring as Thor. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's like if Thor's in the fight, like there's no reason to even call Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with the Hulk, right? Like the Hulk could just smash her with his thumb, and
Yeah.
she would have nothing to do about it. Like, she's cool. Her movie is actually very entertaining
Yeah.
as a standalone because it's funny. But she doesn't belong. Like, her and Hawkeye do not belong in Avengers.
So it's like the
and
team ups you don't like.
I don't like the team ups where they put them all in the same.
Would you
movie.
like the separate ones where it's like?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say if I was forced to pick a favorite Marvel movie, I really like Doctor Strange #2.
Okay. Oh,
It's
okay.
hands down, like, there's no argument. It's the best Marvel movie ever made. It's so
Okay.
good.
Interesting.
Dude, how much better is the Scarlet Witch as a compelling villain than any other villain they present in any Marvel movie?
That's a good point. Yeah, you especially with her character too. Like she's orphaned, she's a refugee of a war. She's
Yeah.
gone through so much. She loses her husband, her kids. Like at some point, somebody's got to break, And you
Yeah.
put so much trauma on somebody with so much power, and who's already maybe a little mentally unstable.
So-
at some point, they need to break.
Yeah, so when it comes to storytelling, the oft overlooked thing is everyone focuses on the protagonist, right? And what you don't realize as a consumer of stories that often the most compelling stories to you are the best antagonists, the best villains. And that for me in storytelling is where I draw the line, right? What, like, the worst villain compared, like, let me contrast the two. The worst villain is Thanos. He is the worst villain of all time. Why is he the worst villain? Well, the reason he wants to destroy half the universe is because half his planet starved to death. So he wants to put together these mythical powers so that he can snap his finger and kill half the universe. Let me ask you a basic question, Thanos. If you have the ability to kill half the universe by snapping your fingers, why don't you just snap your fingers and create limitless food for the entire universe?
Good point.
Come on, bro. Like, that is the worst villain ever because
Yeah.
his story is so unbelievable and uncompelling that it's like I can't empathize with you at all. You're just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even thinking, like, you
Just
apparently
like
have the
violence.
intelligence to
Yeah.
rule an army and to go after all these Infinity Stones, but you can't even think of a better solution than to just kill half of all people. You're like the stupidest, most uncompelling victim. So contrast that with Scarlet Witch, who is, like you said, who is pushed to insanity through loss. And she's not actually evil. What she's trying to do is she's trying to find a universe where she can live with her two sons, even though they're not real. But she's lost sanity, right? She lost the man she loves. She lost her brother. She was caught in this reality where she thought she had children, and now she's trying to recreate that reality, but her mind is broken. And if you've known any mothers, like what is more compelling to empathy than a mother who's broken by grief and loss? Boom, sold.
Dude, huh?
So that's why, hands down, the Doctor Strange movie is so much better than any other Marvel movie they've ever made. Because Marvel is notoriously bad for villains.
Yeah, they are.
It's like, it's like the robot, you know.
Ultron.
Oh, mankind is better off if I destroy man. It's like, come on, man. That's like every Terminator already did that villain.
Yeah, anyone that knows the internet knows that that's going to be a plot because they're on the internet. So of course,
Yeah,
you
it's just
that trope.
it's so like they're so tired and it's so unoriginal and I don't know, man. We should have 4 other podcasts from all the separate topics we brought up, but
Dude, I would be down, bro. That would be fun for me. But I know I've kept you a long time. I know I've kept you like an hour and a half already.
yeah, I would love to just have a podcast where I argue with someone who's pro Marvel and someone just actually come at me with all their pro Marvel
Dude, I
arguments.
can make that happen. I can
And
make
I'll
that
just
happen.
I'll just poo poo all over Marvel and I'll cite examples of why it's so bad and the storytelling is just so lazy and terrible and
I'm gonna write that down because that would be a fun one. Because one of my co-hosts on my other podcast, he's Australian, and he's a total Marvel stan because Marvel gives him like a press pass to go to like the premieres in Australia.
Sure.
So he sees the movies before anybody else does. So he's a total stan, and I would love
Yeah.
to see him like you and him.
is that another word for Homer for it?
Yeah, Homer. That's like the new, like the millennial version of like Stan is Homer. Like no matter what they do, you're still on their side.
Yeah, there's like nothing that Marvel could ever do to turn him off to it. Where
Yeah.
it's like there's some Marvel movies I enjoy, and but mostly I hate the Avenger ones.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, you're not ready for the big Avenger movie at the end of the year. Then you're gonna go see Dune instead.
Oh, dude,
That looks
dude.
good.
In terms of pure entertainment factor, yeah, I'm like Dune doesn't. Dune actually has the father son themes. Like that's I think
Yeah.
another reason it appeals to me. But in terms of just pure cinematic spectacle, Dune is probably the greatest movie of all time. The first two. I don't know what
Dude,
the third one's going to be like, but
It's got to be good, right? It's got to be. I mean,
I mean,
I didn't read the books. I know the books kind of take a. They're hard to get through for one, and they also
I
take
know, they're
some
weird.
weird turns. Like
yeah, he merges
One I had to
himself
read-
with a worm.
yeah, and then like the worm ends up being like the most powerful thing in the world and kills 20 billion people. I'm like, okay. Like
Yeah.
you would lose it if I had to see like Timothy Chalamet having sex with a worm. I'd check out at that point.
Yep.
But as far as like taking parts of the story that people will be interested in and making it something
Yep.
beautiful, the acting behind it, and like Hans Zimmer, like how do you not?
Oh, dude, Dune 2, like, oh my goodness, just what a cinematic spectacle. And
Yeah.
like for those of us who've read the book, it is not easy telling that story.
No.
It
But
is
people tried.
really hard. Yeah, like I read the book and then I had to turn around and read Cliff Notes, and I was like, "What is going on?" Because what's Dune's author again?
Oh God, I can't even tell you.
Um,
Who is the author of Dune?
he's just one of those authors that refuses
Frank
to.
Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert. He just refuses to explain himself. He's a lot like Tolkien. He's like, no, if you don't get it, you don't get it. I'm not going to
You
explain.
go figure it out. Yeah.
You go figure it out. And so stuff like the shields and the Sardaukar and the spice itself, like that is not expressly clear in the book what all that stuff means and what it is. And the movie does a really good job of narrating the whole story without narrating.
Yeah.
Like Dune could be a movie where realistically you could have a narrator in the whole movie just to explain to you what's going on, but Villeneuve doesn't need to do that, and that's why I loved it so much. It's just like it's one of those movies I just keep watching over and over again. Those two movies.
I need to revisit it because the first time I saw it, I had no idea what was going on, and I watched this YouTube video, and it was like, it told me, watch it as if Spice and Arrakis was Amazon Prime, and
Yeah.
it will make sense. And so when I saw it with like that view, I was like, okay, I understand a little bit now why the politics in it, why everybody wants this planet, what's the spice. You just have to look at it as if it's Amazon Prime, and then it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah, Herbert never in the book, if you've ever read it, he never expressly says like spice is the thing that allows people to navigate the universe.
Mm-hmm.
He never says that. He just kind of vaguely talks about this Spicer Guild, and they're the real power behind the Empire. Like, but it never comes out and expressly explains what spice is for, and it's really hard to understand. He kind of just alludes to everything. He loves allusions to that it means this.
Dude.
So, I love it, man. I'm a big sci-fi fantasy nerd on the side just because I live in this analytical world and it's such a big escape for me.
Huh. Dude, that's cool, man. I didn't know you were such a Dune bro.
Yeah.
That's cool. I can't wait. So you're definitely gonna go see when it comes to Dune's Day. You're definitely gonna go see Dune instead of the Avengers movie.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
100%. I won't even see the Avengers movie in theater. I mean, someone will probably drag me to it, but
Yeah. It's gonna be total chaos too, with all the X-Men in it now, and all these different
oh,
things. It'll be total chaos. But
it's the exact type of movie I hate.
are you looking forward to the Odyssey with Christopher Nolan this year?
Oh, absolutely. Nolan is a freaking storytelling
He's a
genius.
dude. Yeah,
Like, dude, you could have a whole podcast episode where I explain to someone who doesn't get Interstellar, like what they're not getting about it. Because I watched it with my mom, and it was funny because I watched it with my mom a couple months ago when she was here helping with the baby, and I like had to walk her through everything. She's like, "This is weird. This is stupid," and I was like, "She's like, why is he in this weird dimension and universe?" And I'm like, "Mom, he's like he's trying to put together this reality where God is science, and that God teaches us how to like go back in time and save the human race, and that love is the most important thing with science. Like, how do you not see all of this?" She's like, "I don't get it. He's just in this weird, like, pixelated place."
Mm.
So I don't know. I love it.
I can't wait, bro. I'm Nolan. I'm a little hit and miss on. Like I liked Interstellar. I liked all the Dark Knight movies. I did not like Tenet.
Oh, Tenet was terrible.
I was not a huge fan either of what's the one that came? Everyone likes it. It's Leo DiCaprio.
Oh, in Inception.
Yeah. I was okay on that one. I
It's
didn't.
good. It's just not the best. Like
No.
Interstellar is definitely better.
I loved Oppenheimer. I thought Oppenheimer was so good.
Oppenheimer was good. I thought it was interesting for him to take on like a biopic.
Yeah.
Um, it was definitely a watchable movie. Like I think if anyone else had directed it, it would be the most boring 3 hours of your life.
Oh, no doubt. With the Odyssey, we did a podcast on it recently, like a few months back, talking about the Odyssey, one of our most anticipated films, and we had some random troll on TikTok that was like, "I will not be seeing the Odyssey because it's not historically accurate." And we're like, "There's a Cyclops in this movie, like a giant with one eye. There's a Cyclops in it." Like,
Just saying, guys.
just saying, like historical. Like, well, the Greeks didn't. It's like, but there's a Cyclops in the movie.
Yeah, like the whole thing is mythology, guys. Like it's mythology written around the unexplained time of when he left Troy to when he got back to Greece. Like,
Yeah.
like
And there's a Cyclops in the movie.
I can't get over the people who have those kind of takes where it's like they're intentionally missing the point of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait.
So Tenet was bad. Tenet was mainly bad just because the whole movie was
Yeah.
and Nolan did that on purpose, and I thought that was a huge tactical mistake.
It was like 30 minutes too long, too like.
Yeah,
I thought
I would
when we were
argue
coming
like
to the
an hour
end,
and a half too long.
and then it was like. But there's Dunkirk, the one with the World War II.
Dunkirk was good.
Yeah, I like Dunkirk.
Who did? Oh man, what was the movie I was thinking of when you were talking about recently? I don't know. I mean, we probably should go. I need to move on to my next meeting, but I love movies, man. Like I'm
Well, cool,
probably
man.
the biggest movie guy of all me and my brothers.
Well, we should do a pod where we just talk about movies then. On
We
the
should.
other pod, not the Bigler pod, on the Walked Off Logic pod.
Yeah, we should. I would happily be on your podcast just to talk movies the whole
Well,
time.
let me think of some stuff. Like, or if you have any suggestions, we could do the Marvel one, or we could do the Marvel one. I think would be fun though, because I'm not a Marvel stan, but I like it. And
I
I'd be
would
interested-
I would love to do a podcast where I just argue with the guy
Okay.
who loves Marvel.
Okay, you've seen them all, right? You've seen all the Marvel.
I've seen
movies?
that's the thing about being a movie guy is I watch every single movie, no matter what.
Okay.
But I will sit through movies I hate.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to ask you who did it wasn't Nolan that did the Robert Pattinson Batman, was it?
No, it's Matt Reeves.
Yeah, I think that is the all-time hands down worst movie I've ever seen.
Really?
I hated that movie.
Why?
Hated it. Just I don't know. I just remember it in terms of like maybe I need to go back and rewatch it, but it's in terms of my experience, it's the movie that stands out the most. I could not wait to get out of that movie. I just hated it.
What is 3 hours long? Too like it did go at least 30 minutes over. Like they could have cut out so much.
I
filler in
remember
that movie.
turning to my wife at about 2 hours, being like, "Will this movie never end?"
It's funny. I love that. I love that.
I couldn't
movie.
even tell you who the villain is in the movie.
The Riddler.
Really?
But you liked the Nolan ones, the Batman
Oh,
Begins. Okay.
yeah, of course. Those are fantastic.
I loved all three of them. People always shit on the Dark Knight Rises, and that's my favorite one. I love the Dark Knight Rises.
I think like again, you judge a good fantasy based off of the villain.
Yeah.
And Bane is not as cool as the Joker.
No.
I give him that, but Bane is still a really cool, compelling
Oh,
victim.
yeah. He's so smart, and he's so like the Joker. Like his Joker would poke holes in like Batman's morality and just
Yeah.
the whole world's chaos. We're all just living this thing. But Bane, like he essentially just came there. He's like, I'm physically stronger than you, and I'm going to show you.
But the thing with Bane, right, is what made that movie so good is Bane's not the true villain.
Yeah.
It was.
Cool.
It wasn't. It was Ra's al Ghul's daughter that wasn't revealed until the very end.
Yeah.
Which
I love
again
that.
makes it a fantastic movie when you have those reveals at the very end that you totally did not see coming.
Yeah.
It's what makes good storytelling.
Yeah. I just love it because I
Yeah.
know you got to get out there and make the name. But dude,
You should
thanks for
do
doing
another
this, man.
podcast about what makes Nolan's Batman so much better than any other superhero movie. Like,
Well, we can do that too, bro. If you're down, I'll send you some invites.
because normally, on principle, I hate Batman as a superhero. Like,
Really?
I didn't watch the ones where Ben Affleck was like, "What's your superpower?" I'm rich. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah.
I
like-
hated that one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
Yeah.
rich. I'm like, that's stupid. That's
Not
the
superpower.
worst Hollywood writing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who's your favorite hero then? Last question on the pod. Who's your favorite hero?
Oh man, favorite superhero?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if I've ever even thought about that question. I mean, I obviously gravitate towards Superman just because of the name,
Yeah.
and again because he's so unwavering in his principles. He's a very principled hero. I always liked Wolverine as a kid, just because he's kind of badass and cool.
That's right.
Yeah. I also I remember as a kid because I was actually the reason I hate Marvel so much is because I was a fan of the comics.
Yeah.
I think they've butchered them. I liked Cyclops. I liked Wolverine. Probably if I had to pick one, it'd probably just be Superman, just because of he's just principled and he's unwavering in his principles.
Did you see the new one?
Horrible, hated
Didn't
it.
like it. Dang,
Hated
dude. Oh man. I thought it was okay. Do you like
Really?
Henry Cavill better? Yeah, I like.
Yeah, Henry Cavill was better. I don't think there's ever been a good Superman movie.
Yeah. They still
Like,
they
that's
just
my
haven't
biggest-
got it right. They just haven't got
Yeah,
it.
like that's my complaint on Superman is it's never been great. Like Henry Cavill was probably the best that you could do. Like the scene between Henry Cavill and Kevin Costner
Yes.
was fantastic. Where he's like not yet, but even that I have problems with it because I'm like, why?
Just do it.
Just do it. It's your dad. Just save
Yeah.
him. You know.
Yeah.
But it was still a good movie. Was that Nolan as well?
I think no one produced, but I think it was Snyder that did it.
Oh, it was Zack Snyder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm a fan of as well. So.
Yeah.
All right. We
Dude.
could get going now. We're going to move on to 300. So let's stop now.
That's a